Welcome to the Black and Unblending podcast, where we discuss the internal family systems model through the Black experience. Introducing Kayla Bell Consolver, licensed mental health counselor, Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, Linda Mayepa, traditional doctor of African medicine, and Shanika Williams, licensed clinical social worker. This podcast is for learning purposes only. This is not medical or mental health advice. Hi, everybody. Well, welcome back. This is to the Black and Unblending podcast, where we talk about everything IFS through the lens of the Black experience. And today, I'm so geeked. We have a special guest, Dr. Gerard Grigsby. I can't wait till you get to meet him. And you know how we start our podcast with our parts party. So we check in and see, okay, what's any recent parts that have been kind of circling around, maybe making some requests, speaking to us, checking in, seeing who's here. Now, who wants to start with our parts party?
I feel like you looking at me and I'm looking at you, Shanika.
I am looking at you.
Oh, y'all
got used to feeling your energy when you looking at my square. I already know. You're always in my square.
Shanika, you trying to be in Kayla's square? Uh-oh. That means I must be frozen.
Oh, did she freeze?
I did. I froze.
There you go.
I did a Zoom freeze. Be back.
Okay.
Yes. So Shanika and Kayla trying to be in Shanika's trying to be in Kayla's square.
Mm-hmm. That part.
So she has a part that's trying to be in your square.
Okay. That part.
Yes.
And then Kayla's ancestors spirit be saying somebody's watching you, and it be me.
Literally. I am always feeling like there's a moment, and then she's gonna text me. I saw you yawn. I said, I knew it. It's just a stay coming in clutch for me. I knew someone was watching me.
Mm-hmm. They know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I'd much rather be you than anybody else. For the record.
Go ahead, Shanika.
Yeah. So let's see what's showing up for me. Parts party. I'm just coming back off vacation, so I think there's some parts that's still on vacation. But I feel like we feel really grounded right now, and just really what we got back from vacation is balance in everything, all aspects of life. So our parts feel really good right now. Happy to be in this space with you all. Excited to get to know Gerard, and yeah, I feel good. We good over here.
I can flow in. I'm glad you're feeling good, Shanika. I say my system's very similar. My parts always feel much more settled when they're well fed. So got done eating. Got to pick up my little one earlier just to have some like quality time. And there's a lot of parts of me that are like really giddy of what's happening in life right now. Just a lot of experiences that didn't feel tangible in my lifetime that are happening to me. And so I've been really soaking in that experience and making sure like all my parts are feeling it. So they all been a little close to me. Like for example, did a photo shoot for I'm gonna be on probably it's gonna be me and a few other people on the cover as LGBTQ folks in Des Moines. And there are parts of me that like we never thought we'd be this visible. You know what I mean? So those parts are like very close to me, and just, to being Pride Month at the time we're recording this, just been feeling them all over and like just soaking in that experience. It's been nice.
Yeah. I got a little subgroup happening, like on the never thought we would be this visible space. Definitely have parts that are looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm making a lot of choices in my life to choose me, which feels foreign to my parts. I'm so used to taking care of others and prioritizing other people's needs before my own. And so there's like this shift happening. If like there's also parts that are like, whew, thank goodness she finally doing it. And then there's parts that are like, no, what in the so we're like walking this line slowly but surely and figuring this thing out. But it's um been beautiful to choose me. It's felt good to do that. And yeah, and in that space, like stepping up in like more leadership spaces too. And so like that's where that
Mm,
we okay, our face may be more visible and more front facing, talking in front of big spaces, and how do we feel about doing that? So it's just been, yeah, good to get to know those parts of me and hear their concerns, too.
mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, hey, George, you any parts joining the parts party?
Oh, yes, several. A big subgroup around um, just being surprised, seeing myself kind of step into some spaces of leadership and also maybe a similar part that's like, child, what are you doing? Like, even doing this. Um, I don't think many people know this about me because I'm very extroverted and like, there are times where there's a part of me that's just like, I just want to jump in, make people laugh, say my two pieces, and get out. But I actually hate public speaking. I hate speaking in front of people. I have parts that hate it with a passion. So the part that I'm like that feels really, really close to me right now and that has felt really close to me the past week is the one that was saying, tell them no. Tell them no. Um, and by one of the reasons it took me so long to follow up is because I was like very polarized. Do I want to do this? Do I not? Do I want to do this or not? And you followed back up with me, and I was in a good space that day. So I'm like, you know what? I'm leaning into the discomfort. I'm leaning into the tension. And then up until I logged in, that part was like, tell them we need to reschedule. Tell them they need to find somebody. So that part is really close. And then I think the other thing I'm noticing that I want to speak for is just like the settling that's happening now that I'm here and I see your faces on my screen and I can feel the energy that's here and I see like okay this can just be real relaxed and we can just be vulnerable and real and the part of me that's like how buttoned up and how much posturing do I have to do that one is like okay maybe this doesn't have to be like that so that feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I timed that email right. Ooh. Okay, Linda's coming in. I'm so excited. I have to tell Linda, hey, 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 as they're arriving and about to get flow in. Linda. I just want to let you know, yeah,
Hey.
we're flowing in, and we just did our parts party. So I want to check in, see if you want to check in now, or we want to give you a little time to feel
I'd love to check in now. I'm just hoping my audio is okay for y'all.
perfect.
Yay. Yeah, my parts party is feeling all kinds of ways for being late.
You just on.
But yeah, but there's so many more parts that are like, thank you for taking care of what needed to be taken care of.
Mm,
Because now I'm here and I'm really here.
Mm-hmm.
That part.
Yeah. And I was really able to be with what I needed to handle.
mm,
And ooh,
Right?
mm-hmm.
That'll preach. You already. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you flowed in right when you needed to and handled what you needed to. And I want to introduce our wonderful and special guest. Gerard Grigsby, and
What you do? I just want to say, hey, Linda.
yeah, uh, yes. So I want to take a moment just to, yeah, introduce. Is it okay if I call you Dr. Gerard Grigsby?
It is okay. And
Okay.
and I always tell people I like Gerard feels more comfortable to my ears, but I'll answer to whatever you call me. I I,
Well,
I earned the doctor, so you can call me that.
that's my parts, of course. But I'm like, that's who, So, but of course, I will call you Gerard, yeah, in conversation. But and while we're reading your bio, like Dr. Gerard Crispy, right? LC is a proud gay first gen college grad and HBCU alum with roots in the world of recovery. He earned his MED in clinical mental health counseling as well as his PhD in counselor education and supervision from Ohio University. Gerard has over 10 years of clinical counseling experience. He has worked in college counseling and community mental health settings, and he currently manages a virtual private practice in his home state of Maryland. Gerard's practice is open to all, but he is most energized in his work with Black, queer, and same gender loving men. When he takes his therapist hat off, Gerard enjoys spending time with loved ones and making people laugh. He also enjoys dancing, boxing, singing, which I've heard, hiking, listening to audiobooks, and I lost the last little bit of it. Oh, and journaling. Welcome, 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 welcome.
Whoop, whoop.
Gerard, we're so happy to have you. Okay. I guess too, I think it's important to name too that we're centering really in discussion Black men, mental health too, as we're holding this conversation too, but of course letting it flow to see whatever flows up.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'll make a request. I don't know what you all had planned, but so part of me that I guess came in thinking, okay, y'all are gonna ask your questions and I'm just gonna answer them. But my like what I would some parts of me would really want is for this to feel like a discussion where y'all chime in and like we just pass the mic around.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, part of me doesn't want to feel like I'm being interviewed. So
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some head nods, so we can
Yeah.
take, yeah, definitely
mm,
get that in. Yes, we want it to be collaborative in a space. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so just so I understand then, Gerard, it's kind of like I'll float the questions into the group, right? Or I'll float it and then you get to answer first and then the whole group kind of expands. Does that sound like what feel most comfortable for the system?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool, cool. So I'll start with, you know, well, there's one specific one that is around like manhood, right? But I'm gonna open that up because we know manhood, patriarchy really impacts all of us in some way, shape, or form. And I can definitely hit on that with being, definitely there are many moments I'm leaning a little bit more androgynous. But I'm curious, like to the group, like when did you learn early on about what it means to be a man? Um, and how has that impacted your own mental health and also how you show up in the world?
And I know I said I would answer first, but I actually want to think
Yeah.
about this. Yeah.
And here we actually give space for that. So that's the cool thing. Yeah.
Mm. Well, now I'm noticing a part that like I notice my heart beating really fast because that part of me that's like, okay, you gotta have it all lined up right is remembering like, okay, here's my talking points, the things I knew I wanted to say. I gotta make sure I have them in order. Um, so that's happening, and I also do want to like sit with this some more. So
Mhm.
And checking in with your system, draw, is it more of like maybe the wanting us as a collective to open it up and then you flow in when you feel ready, or do you want more space given?
y'all open it up and then I'll flow in.
Mhm.
And I have to speak for a part that is just loving how this is happening.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, to the point where I'm like getting a little teary. Okay. But
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it
yeah.
really feels beautiful. So,
Mm,
Mhm. I mean, I don't mind because this gives a good opportunity to, and I can flow in because I've been reflecting a lot on this because I power lift. I'm also, I stand nice 5'10" and a half. So I've been often taught that I'm outside of the idea, and I'm athletic of what a woman should be. And so, in this space, Gerard, when you were speaking, like there feels like this inherent as an expectation that I have to lead or do something. That's
mm,
often what I hear what it means to be a man is in charge of everything, leading and cultivating spaces, and therefore women are meant to be following that, right? In whatever way. Which I don't even know now that I name that these dynamics, right? And just even talking about it and how this can, show up these expectations in this space. But when I learned about what that meant for me, I was like, well, that's kind of hard because I feel always outspoken. I love basketball. This is before I learned about queerness. I was like, this was just always me. I love sneakers over heels. I love a really good, back then, uh those little quarter length shorts, if you know, they don't go past the knee, but they're right there,
mm,
over like skirts. And so for me, it was like to be a man meant to be opposite of me, but for me to
mm,
be a woman also felt opposite of like these norms that I was expected to do. I want to sit comfortably. I don't want to have to sit in the car and cross my legs. And
mm,
so as I grew, I was like, manhood is like this box and it like is trapping, right? I think that same thing can be said with this binary of women as well, but it encapsulates you into this expectation. Like even when I show up at the gym, there's something in my mind. It's like I have to like overdrive and like affirm that it's okay to have muscles. It's okay for my voice to even be like this level. It's okay for me to want to wear sneakers, out and about and not have to wear a dress or pigtails and all these different things. And so I think about mental health, it made me feel ashamed for expressing myself sometimes in androgynous ways.
mm,
Even like wearing a power suit. I loved when Kamala wore her suits, instead of like what we traditionally see other women in, legislation wear. But that's what always been my experience, and the impact of my mental health is like my self-esteem and my confidence to show up authentically within myself without someone putting me in this box of man versus woman.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. When you spoke about, I guess, the expectation that men kind of take the lead, they learn that they need to take the lead, and maybe the people around them learn that that's going to happen. Um, I don't know. Mm, I think I know that that happens. I don't know that that lives in my system. Like, oh, as the man here, I need to take charge. I think what I'm more aware of is the like sensitivity around the impact of men doing, you know, what many men do. And so I notice even I noticed it when I first logged in when you all were like connecting and doing your thing. There was a part of me that wanted me to like just kind of sit back and not impose or not take up space as a male-bodied person here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's where my mind went. One of the first places my mind went in response to your share, and I'll there's more I'll say later, but um, yeah, that felt alive right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
I don't know if I've ever fit in the binary rules. I remember like I'm reflecting back. I was listening to you, Kayla, and I was reflecting back on like messaging I got because I would just sit down on the couch and they were like, ladies don't flop.
Mm,
Um,
Yeah.
uh and I would whistle. I don't know why, it's just whistling, listen. And my grandmother like, ladies don't whistle. And I'm like, whistling's only for men. Like it was like this. Like so and then I'm thinking back to like images that I saw on like the TV screen. It felt like there was like more space for like male characters to like dominate a space.
mm,
And that there was like a downplay of like women were like supporting the role. Like Claire was definitely like Claire Hustle, right? For example, like she was definitely like a dynamo in her right, but it was like we knew it was like the who show it was, right? So it's like it felt like I got a message that like the men are right, the men are the show and we're just supporting, right? We're the like and so what it takes to be a man, that I don't know if that was if I got a message about what that was. I just knew that whatever he was doing, we were supposed to like listen to it and respect it and support it. Um, yeah, so that's it's interesting reflecting on this of like the rules or what message about what being a man really is, because my it's still a question. I think like for me it's just like really pretty simple, right? But
Mhm.
I want to think literally, but it's interesting.
Mm.
Hmm. It is interesting. I was noticing, Alicia, as you were sharing, like kind of like getting these messages of what role, like that for some reason that stuck out to me because I remember I classified myself as a tomboy. Like I didn't like wearing dresses. I like wearing shorts. I preferred to hang around guy friends versus girlfriends because I felt like I could connect more with the guys. Whereas with the girls, it was like competition or it was just, I don't know, it was just different. And also being judged for that. Like, oh, you being fast. Why are you hanging around with all these, boys? Or why are you trying to dress that way? Or, just a lot of things. And one thing that was coming up for me when I was hearing that role is like this part of me that didn't like um, seeing women make themselves smaller uh,
Mm.
around um, dominant like men. And how that then came into like, once I got married, I very headstrong and me and my husband butt heads, but then him being willing to allow me to be his teammate, like the dynamics of that, and also being able to see what's behind um, the needing to lead, because he's a great leader, but I hear him say like, sometimes I don't want to lead, right?
Mm.
And being able to ask questions and seeing how by asking questions I'm able to have access to his heart
Mm.
because I'm now learning like what um how hard it is when it's not acceptable and you grew up like you're not supposed to feel, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to do these things, people rely on you, you don't want to lead but you have to lead. um Even when you're trying not to be intimidating, you are intimidating. And like, and I fell into that because, I would, clash with him. And then when I started asking questions, I'm like, dang, like I didn't know it was like that. And being able to recognize, like as I'm raising my son, asking questions, allowing him to feel,
Mm.
um, asking his opinion. And what I mean by that is saying, hey, it's okay for you to feel that way. You want to talk about it? You don't have to. There's nothing wrong with feeling. Um, So it's just interesting because then I also see how just external, like school influences manhood, like, where it's not okay to feel like, in public or you being called soft. Like seeing that with my son, that's what I mean by that. And how do you, I can't protect him from that.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's like, I don't know, it's just, there's just a lot showing up like around like roles and how even when you do intend to make space for it, how there's still these influences that cause it to impact relationships. And then to catch myself when I'm also like lead, like just unknowingly, like, oh yeah, you can do it. You're a leader. And then I'm like, oh wait, I need to ask, is this okay?
Mm.
Right. Yeah, so that's what was coming up for me. Like I know my parts be all over the place. Like they just be I was like, okay, I can't get y'all in order, so y'all just gonna be all out here, but thank y'all for listening.
In my system, it didn't feel like your parts were all over, so I just
Oh,
wanted to name
I,
that.
I was following you.
okay.
You about to go, Linda?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Shanika was saying about raising boys because I've got one.
Mhm.
My story about the idea of men. Um, yeah, I for me it was always about boxes and boundaries and who could I be and who couldn't I be?
Mm.
Because it turns out like everything I was into as a kid, and I'm Gen X. I grew up in the 70s. Um, very firmly to no, can't play football. What do you mean you're into science? What are you doing with these computers? What are you? No, you can't do auto shop in high school. No, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't be this. You can't be that.
Mm.
So there's so much anger, so much anger that as a mother, there was a level of like coming to grips with like, I need to not share this with my child. I need to share what healing looks like,
Mm,
right? What the healed me around that looks like. But then I realized all these men in my life across time, that anger was still there.
Mm.
And um now that I've been healing that, it is fascinating. Exactly what you said, Shanika, about, oh, I didn't know it was like that. Oh, um, there's aspects of the human experience that are able to be heard and held by me that I was unaware of.
Mm.
And I've always had a very socio-political view of manhood as well. You know, the project that's patriarchy, the projects that's settler colonialism, the violence associated with it. But now, um, it's really wonderful to be able to really bring the heart and head and spirit together around um what is it with this energy, right?
mm,
What is it that's happening to people um when we shape who we are in like these really rigid frames?
mhm,
Um yeah, and it's been a journey, because there is actually huge spiritual component to this, I believe. Um because we all have all sorts of energies in us.
Mhm.
And we all, in the cosmologies that I live in, we're all here for a reason. We're all doing the things that we need to be doing and learning what we need to learn, and partnering with people in the ways that bring about, future generations and the like. And yeah, I don't know yet all the story around what's been happening with our beingness, but
Mm.
yeah, it hurts.
Mm.
It hurts to deny, to have an entire frame that denies, feeling, that denies humanity, that can only do certain things.
mm,
Um, and that, in our society often they have to stand alone.
Mm,
Um, and there's more, right? There's more. I'm learning. There's things you can say, there's things you can read about, there's observations you can make, but the thing I'm excited about is I don't need to go with all that because I can partner with, I can ask, I can have my heart open to somebody telling me about their experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a worthwhile journey, actually.
mm. Yeah, that was really helpful. I feel that like not in my stomach, it has softened. Um, yeah, it's softened. It's almost gone.
Mhm.
So much of what people shared really resonated. I kept hearing what I always say, patriarchy is a poison. Um, and Shanika, when you were sharing, like men can't feel, men can't be soft, men can't be vulnerable. Um, I like when I got this list of questions, I'm like, what messages did I hear? Like I know all of those messages exist, but this was a difficult question for me to answer because I heard those messages and I knew like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I guess these boxes exist, and the expectation is that, I live within the confines of this box. I think because I was queer and noticeably different, people around me kept um, letting me know that I was failing at performing masculinity and manhood the right way. So from a very early age, like I knew what boys and men were allowed to do and not allowed to do. Um, and most of it was basically just don't be anything feminine or weak. um, at the same time, like I was barred from the boys' club. And I found comfort and safety and community among other women. And so, like, although that was a pain point for me, like not like seeing that like I was exiled by other men. Um, at the same time, it was like a bit of a blessing because I got to live and exist outside of those constraints, and so I got to figure out like what can a different kind of masculinity look like? What can a different kind of manhood look like? Um, and so I don't know that the messaging around manhood really impacted my mental health. It was probably to some degree like feeling like othered. Um, but I think what really impacted me the most, what really um, like what made me cry at night was all the times people pointed out that I was different. All the times people pointed out like you're obviously queer, and all the ways that I was targeted and bullied of um, because people assumed I was gay. Um, so yeah, it's and to this day, like I get like yeah, there are certain scripts that men are supposed to follow, but it doesn't feel like a lot of that actually applies to me. And so I actually feel like I have a lot of freedom to be vulnerable and express softness and hardness. Um, I hate the word masculine. I hate the word femininity. I tend to use soft and hard because in my mind, like I don't like the idea of a spectrum. I really think all of these qualities exist. Like I think of a constellation, like one of those. What do you call them? I don't know if they're called, but those little balls that you kind of expand.
Oh
The
yeah.
breathing ball. It's not a breathing ball, but kind of like the breathing balls.
Ah,
Sure,
I
but
wish
it's
I
more,
had one. Like those ones that expand and they kind of look, yeah.
yeah. Like I can turn that thing around and pick whatever quality I want to have access to, whatever I want to express or embody in that moment. In my mind, like we should all have access to that. And unfortunately, we all know what we were taught about who's allowed to do what, which bodies are allowed to do what, and which ones aren't. So,
Mhm.
I mean, hitting on a lot of gems because like the common theme I hear is like there's a lot of burdens,
mhm,
right?
Yeah.
Patriarchy, there's a burden attached to that, but then when you add in like sexuality, sexual orientation, even gender expression, right? Then it's like an extra burden and like a double weight that comes in. And so, I mean, I guess I'm curious for the group, um, kind of what burdens or how do you see these burdens get passed down, like or carried across generations? And kind of specifically even add in, for Black queer, Black trans folks, because clearly it's an intersectional experience, right?
mm,
To your point, Gerard, you're like, I wasn't invited in here, but also like there were these expectations already of like who I was gonna be, and therefore that impacted how people treated you.
mm,
I'll flow in. Um, the message that I'm getting, like when I heard like burden, it was like the burden of like trying to be yourself, but knowing what may come with that if you do like be yourself, if it doesn't fit in these, the boxes. Um, so what I'm hearing is I can kind of like understand why, um, people may pick from these patriotic beliefs because it's a form of protection. Because if I don't, like what and how would that impact me? Would I be accepted? Would I be a target? So it's hard. That's what I was thinking about, like the burden, because it's like I'm seeing how, because my son goes to a public school, how it's influencing him, but I can also see it as a form of protection. Um, so, yeah, it's something around like the burden of how do I be myself if it may not be safe, depending on where I'm at.
mhm,
Um, yeah,
mhm,
yeah, that's kind of like what was kind of coming up for me, and I don't have all of the understanding of it, but it was just really interesting, like how I was like, oh, like how that can feel like a burden, just trying to be you.
mm, mm,
Absolutely.
I don't know if I have this fully thought out yet, but it's how I've seen the like this burden passed down. Like it feels like when like this burden is really like it's a crisis of belonging, right? Like because it's um depending on the family, are they going to accept me or are they not? Depending on right, if they're accepting like of your queer identity and the legacy of I feel like in our culture there's such a huge there's like a heightened hypervigilance like like a heightened hypervigilance around Black malehood, right, because of um I think what was done like to our men historically, right, whether it's castrating during lynching or what, like all of that, right? And so um and so I feel like because of that and also these systems of patriarchy and homophobia and transphobia, like that there's this crisis that happens, and oftentimes what I've experienced and witnessed is like um, um you know, and it's a Black queer man or Black trans person, like, okay, I'm gonna either choose to not be myself, not honor myself, or like to stay connected, or choose to be myself and like grieve the connections
mm,
that I will lose, or and it'll be whether it's right, having to create boundaries with the family, right? Because they don't, or just whether they're choosing to go non-contact just to, right, protect themselves. And um, I guess even there's a part of me that was like wishing that I had more more experiences where I've seen ex families that were accepting.
Mm,
But I've usually, unfortunately, seen the latter where there's and then just a lack of openness about what's happening in the family as well. On top of that, like so, like oh, well, why cousin so and so don't come around? Well, like we don't talk about what's really happening
Mhm.
oftentimes or how it's playing into um the family. And I think a thing too that I witness is just there's like a fear of of families who I've seen who aren't accepting. There's like this fear of like what the lifestyle is going to be.
mhm,
And for me, like as like the lifestyle that they often fear is like the exact representation of transphobia and homophobia, right? Like so like this this lifestyle that you're fearing of like your loved one is I want you to know like that like the the breeding ground is hatred
mm,
and like so there's oftentimes where I'm like, oh, it would be so wonderful if we could like see what it could be like if yes, these things are out here, but what could we could create a safe space. Like what could you, if you could, right, create a safe space for your loved one that you're concerned about like this lifestyle.
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah.
Mhm.
mm. Yeah. My mind goes in two different directions around this because there are burdens that people take in around queerness and transness, and then there are burdens that people take in around um, like patriarchal. Well, I mean, they're all connected, but even cis hetero men, like the burdens they take in, or the burdens that are imposed on them. I'm thinking of a particular client who, like, it's such a difficult dilemma that he's navigating, like being assigned male at birth, being told, you know, in order for you to have value in this body, you have to live it out a certain way. And then if you can't do that, then you have less value. And even like you could do everything in your imagination to try to live up to the standard. And if you fail it, you still don't have the value that you're supposed to have. And if you deviate too far from this standard, it could cost you your sense of connection to community. It could also cost you safety. Like it's not just queer folks and trans folks who get beaten up you know, um, because of the people perceiving them as different. Like cis hetero men who are perceived as weak are targeted and dominated and exploited. And yeah, it's weird when people tell you like um, or when you learn just as a result of living in this world, like there are keys to this vault, and you have to embody certain qualities to have access to that vault. And if you're not able to, deep, that's proof that I'm not enough. And I just think about all the shame that people carry around that motivates them to do all this heinous stuff, including like having a need to dominate women and thinking like you're the key, you're one of the keys on this chain to manhood. And if you don't grant me access to you, that means you're the obstacle between me and manhood, therefore me and real value, which is, which could take us in a different direction with this conversation. But yeah, those are all the things that are swirling around. And then when I think about my own experience, um, just all the shame around being gay and thinking, like something is wrong with me. And a lot of that, surprisingly, I didn't there wasn't a lot happening in my family that taught me that. I think I mainly picked that up being a church kid, um, which is, and my pastor didn't even do a lot of preaching about homosexuality, but because people were telling me certain things about myself, you know, I tried to figure out, okay, well, what does all of this mean? And of course, when you stumble upon Leviticus, whatever, whatever, um, you can't ignore. All right, well, these words exist, and here's what everybody says that they mean. And so they're just years of wrestling, really believing this thing that seems inherent to me that I can't change is wrong. Or what does that mean? You know, and Alicia, you talked about the crisis of belonging within your family, but what do you do when the crisis is my connection to my higher power, or my salvation?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, yeah, just so many things, so many layers to this that I think it feels important. There's a part of me that feels that it's important to just name that even at 35, after having done all this work to unlearn all the things and challenge all the things, there are still parts of me that hold burdens around whether it's wrong or right for me to be gay,
Mhm.
Mm.
and even a part of me that kind of goes back and forth, wondering like, how queer am I? Is there any
Mm.
there any normal heterosexual energy in me? Like that is still in there, and
Mm.
and you know that's it just feels like right to name that too. So
Mhm.
mm,
I'm breathing in it 'cause there's so many parts of me that resonate. And I said that when I first met you, like even the things you're saying right now, they're a parts of me is snapping because you're speaking the facts of like how this junk is inherited,
mhm,
right? It's not sometimes the direct messages, it's the covert ones and like the parts that like, well, what does this mean? If everybody's telling me I must be wrong, I mean, I must be right, and then what that does on a spiritual level, if it says this, and there are parts of me that chuckle with the Leviticus because I've just been going in. There are parts of me that have been going in on TikTok, and Pride Month has been like reclamation, because all of it are messages, the same
mm,
messages that slave owners used for Black people or enslaved Africans to keep them in there, Um, and it just gets digested. So it's not like that one meal that you eat and then you don't eat it ever again. We're breathing it in all the time. So this is why people, who could have the most loving families, because I work with a lot of, especially Black or BIPOC, LGBTQ folks, the best families, and they don't even know like why they have that. It's like it's indoctrinated. Especially I'm raising a little one. I'm watching Mickey Mouse. I said, oh, they teach you that early.
mm,
Like it's not explicitly said that Minnie and Mickey are in a couple, but it's implied, right? So
Mhm.
you're already getting these messages, and our parts are seeing like this is what's right. And when you don't see anything here, it's vacant, right? And so if you happen to, come out or you notice there's a part of you that kind of deviates from this in any way, there's no message there
mm,
except shame,
mhm,
accept pain, accept you're wrong. So you internalize the only message. And I really feel like so many, Black and brown LGBTQ youth would feel way more comfortable and confident if they had the messages of difference early on, that you are worthy and you are affirming and you are loving because you fill it with whatever is available, right? You drink nasty water, you're gonna have toxins inside if that's the only water you got, right? And
mm,
so when I think about some of these burdens, how they get passed down, that's like what comes to my mind. But then to the point you all are making too is everybody loses in this. And so the people who are afraid of being judged end up casting the same judgment. So they lose a sense of freedom,
mhm,
right? So that's why I think there's a lot of hatred towards especially Black queer folk because they're expressing this freedom they don't have. Right? Because the moment sometimes we have a little bit more freedom, there's a little bit more expression, there's a little bit more openness, a little bit more rejection of these norms. They can't do that often, right?
mhm,
And I've seen people even just with weddings, some of the symbols that is like, no, I want to do this different. we get a little bit more freedom because people sometimes don't want to move around us, and they already feel some type of way around it. But other people in heterosexual relationships and get married, you're expected to do this thing, and
Mm,
so all these systems get passed down. You just get the burnt end of the stick, and so it
mm,
becomes a hard thing to untangle because it's the messages you're right and wrong. When you got someone like the Pope even reinforcing these messages, of course there's parts that are gonna be like, do I know? Right? Even if God themselves or himself, whatever people identify, come down and said, I actually disagree with all of them, those parts will still be there because you've heard it
Right.
yeah.
so much. So that's a little how I see like how this junk gets like passed down and like you said, the poison.
Mhm.
And the poison happens before we're even born.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gender reveals. Don't even get me started on gender. Like people, I can't wait to see my child. I can't wait to see him married and have like we do this before they're even born. So those expectations get put on. So yeah, there are parts of me that get like angry at it. That's where I'm at with Pride Month is reclaiming my anger because when you grow up, you don't have permission to be angry. You
Mm,
just breathe it in and there's no place to go. There's often nobody else to talk to. So you digest it and it turns into shame.
mm,
The anger gets metabolized toward your own self. So
mm.
Glad that you're making space for it, Kayla.
oh yeah, absolutely. I said Juneteenth is coming up, Pride Month. I said this is the all my
Mm,
parts are like, finally, we here, we here.
yeah.
Wow. Mm, I don't know that this is a direct answer to that question, but the other thing that there's a part that's like, say this too. Just
Mhm.
the I guess you could call it a burden, but the burden of invisibility.
Mm.
And
Sorry, my part got
one, just not seeing yourself represented anywhere, but also how it feels in my system is, and it is happening even here. It happens everywhere. Every time I'm in a group, just knowing like, oh, it could be threatening for me if I take up space. It could be threatening for me if I show up in a way that makes someone else
Mm.
uncomfortable. And so I feel it in my body. There's like a constant constriction. There's a constant like pressure all around to be as small as possible, as invisible as possible, so that, you know, I don't draw attention, unwanted attention to myself. Um, and then the same, to a lesser degree, I feel the same thing happen, um, knowing that I walk through the world as a male-bodied person. Um, but that's more like just don't seem threatening, but still, there's still this, like, okay, you know, shrink, you know, be invisible. And I get that in some ways that can, like, I see some aspects of those strategies or whatever as heirlooms. They ensured our survival, and they're still, yeah, I feel an impact of it that I don't like. So uh, there's still a burdensome aspect of it too.
Mm.
massive subgroup. That sounds like you was in my therapy sessions, like this theme of like invisibility, um, which is interesting. Well, one is there's like double layers because if you show up too much, right, especially as Black people, don't be too loud, don't disrupt too much. It's gonna be a
Mhm.
problem. You add this level of like queerness, right, to it. Definitely don't be too loud, right? I don't know if anyone's got the message of, you already got enough hard. Don't make it harder for yourself, right?
Oh, God,
And in the
yes.
legacy of
Mhm.
the ways such an erasure, you don't see a lot of old Black queer people for a reason. And it's not because they didn't exist, it's because many of them died, right? So there's that ancestral piece of that invisible, like, this is how we stay safe, right? And then we have IFS, who teaches us to expand. Some people like, how do y'all hold that? And because that's always this interesting, because and that's why I love IFS with the ancestral word, because it's often like, oh no, have these parts to expect. Self can be expansive, self can be showing up, it can be okay, but there's wisdom, right? And like moments of shrinking, but also that's burdensome. And so I'm curious, like, kind of where y'all are at, like, how do your parts typically process that, that restriction of like, this is how we stay safe in this world. But IFS says this is also, let's expand. This is how you can feel better and safer in how that lands
Mm,
and your work or even your own personal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I keep getting struck by how racialized a lot of the violence is that leads to these burdens.
mm,
Whether that's in school, who are the teachers? What do the teachers look like that aren't acting when things aren't right?
mhm,
Um, out and about, who's speaking up and making you uncomfortable and why? Why are they making you uncomfortable for just being yourself? Right? I love Gerard, you actually like a bell rung inside of me when you said heirlooms for survival,
mm,
right? Because yeah, calling that a burden doesn't sit right with me.
mm,
It's an heirloom for survival. I'm gonna be meditating on that for a while.
mhm,
Um,
Same.
mm,
yeah, and like there are so many dimensions to how we sit with our beingness. And I say there's a part of me that's like, hey, can't you just say men or or masculinity, pardon, Gerard, or I don't want to I don't want to decenter men
Mhm.
by saying that. Yeah, I don't want to decenter men. I'm saying that without decentering men.
mhm,
You know, our beingness is like enforced in so many ways that are racialized and there's a lot of internalization of the racialization as well
mm,
as the internalization of the violence. And it's yeah, that's what's really striking me as we're all talking is it's like how do you wrap your arms around that?
mm,
How do you have this kind of conversation around that? Because there's a part of me is like, well, we'll just be doubling back on what we're talking about. And it's like, uh, okay, what's like that's not bad. Like why? I don't even know where that comes from. The idea that doubling back on a conversation to kind of like get the layers of it.
mm,
And it's very specific, right? It's very specific to talking about the levels here. And I would submit that, and I feel, and there's parts that are cheering me on about it. You know, that is also racialized, right? It's like talk about the levels.
mm.
Yeah, of course, because when you do that, then you can get to, the root.
And I have parts that want you to know I'm totally fine with you saying masculine, feminine. My parts don't like those words coming out of my mouth.
Mm. Yeah, my part's just wanted you to know I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of heirloom of survival, like how I navigate, right? Like IFS saying, like giving us like, oh, we can take up space, we can step into this confidence, we can. Curiosity was a really big thing. I didn't realize how much curiosity was just like really not something my parts felt like I had access to at all. Because when it's like, don't
Mm,
ask no questions, don't like just like it was just very
mhm,
I'm in a really heavy like Christian household. It's like the Bible say, but so it's like to a point where people ask questions. Sometimes I'll be like, stop asking. Like I had a part that would get mad at for asking a question. Now I'm like, lean in, right? Like I lean, I green book it. That's what I call it, right? Like I do not ignore the external, right? What we call like the external limitations of our world. And what
mhm,
it's like for like me, it's a black woman to show up and so like being really mindful of the spaces where I allow myself to step into that because leadership and taking up space, that is a vulnerable act, and
Mhm.
so it's like, okay, let's be really mindful and see, okay, where and being in line with my parts, listening to my parts, then seeing like, okay, where do we feel safe to do
Mm.
that? Hmm. And then I'll share them resources with my other Black professionals. Like, hey, this is nice. This person's a safe person to work with, just so like, and this is a way to, right, take up space, but in a way too that's like, right, I've been in spaces where I've gotten the message mm, like, I don't know if it's okay for you to be here, or what do you think you're doing here, or we're not really taking you seriously. Uh,
Mhm.
and also to, oh, you said somebody treated you wrong because of the color of your skin. That's not really what happened, right? So, like, experienced all that and want to also give myself choice about like how to navigate this in a space, like in a world where like racism is a reality.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kayla, can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, absolutely. So knowing that, there are parts of us, ancestral or just simply protective in our own systems that teach us that invisibility is going to keep us safe.
Mm.
When we get engaged with like IFS teaches this expansion of like being in our own cells, right, in relationship with these parts, or where we can have more agency, a sense of safety. And so, curious how you all have navigated that within your own systems, or even like in the work. Um, and I can kick it off too, but also,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I'll take that as a yes. Um, this I believe in like just a lot of the power of protective parts. I don't believe self has more wisdom
Mhm.
sometimes. Most times I think there's wisdom all around, and especially when there's lineage of wisdom. And so when I would say in my own system, because I'm working very much. I'd kick this off and say like me doing a photo shoot, being like, and I live in red state. Like there are parts of me like Kayla, you are far too visible, far too confident. Um, but I listen to the intention and what they're asking me to do. And through the work of IFS, before these parts used to be like, Kayla, you need to shrink, you need to hide, keep
Mm.
your gifts only within you, because if anyone has access to your gifts, right, that's going to cause you harm. You're going to get hurt. And through the work with my own parts and like also like comforting and giving them attention and care, because that's been very true. What we didn't hit on today, which is bigger than this conversation, is the way sometimes you can get exploited. And
Mm.
I've experienced that emotional exploitation as well, because sometimes when people do not feel they have parts of them that will allow them to explore their sexuality, they will try
Mhm.
to do it with people who are out in ways that are so harming and you don't realize what's happening. So there are parts of me that has learned that. And
Mhm.
then through working with my own parts and honoring like where that comes from, when myself comes in collection with my part, is more of like we can trust that our gifts are going to have purpose and have meaning. Right. So now I use these parts as more of like more mindfulness and awareness of, are you asking me to be invisible, or are you just asking me to be careful? And that's very
Ooh.
different than me to shrink. And so through that, it's like less of like as I expand, I keep them so close to me because they can hear and see and smell things that I myself probably can't, because it wasn't experiencing that.
Yeah.
And I use it more as a guide to be curious. I think it's what you were saying, Alicia, earlier, and a guide to be courageous, all right? And being mindful, because I can very much, when I'm in self, everybody has my gifts. And these parts, like, hold up now, be
Mhm.
careful.
Mhm.
So that's a little how I've used that. It's more of like, it feels like an accordion sometimes in my system. Is just like discernment, assessing, does this environment feel like something I want to invite more of my gifts in? Or is this an environment that I feel like I want to keep my gifts a little closer to my chest?
Mm.
Mhm.
Right. And those gifts being the beauty of my sexuality. You know, everybody isn't privy. I talk about a lot about church. There are some church folk who will never get access to the love that I have here within my own identity. And I'm not going to use it to educate you so you can work through whatever you got. But there are some people like, absolutely, I would love to talk more with you about that. And so those parts have allowed me to find the spaces where it feels safe to expand
Mhm.
and also acknowledge the spaces where I might need that protection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You you said basically what I was gonna say. I just wanted to make
See, we in alignment.
hope I heard her the right way. And I know the first thing that came up, like I was like, let me check to make sure my is this coming from like a rebuttal place? Um, and I'm glad you answered first or shared first because um, if I feel more comfortable sharing like what came up for me, partly because of that other part that I named earlier. It's like, ooh, don't do the man thing up in here. Like you're not the one who knows the right way to think about this or approach this. So um yeah, it just reminded me of the conversation that comes up a lot when we hear about unburdening and relieving protectors of their extreme roles. And the question is always like, well the world is still it's not like the world is safer now.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is our protectors, it's not that they have to disappear or be off duty. It's that um, one, the parts that they were protecting may not be as vulnerable now. They actually have more protection from me and myself. And because I'm in relationship with you, Mr. Discerning part, or because I'm in relationship with you, you know, invisibility part, we can have a conversation about whether you need to be doing that all the time. Because there may be times you're keeping me invisible or you're being hypervigilant where you don't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
This could be an environment that actually is safe. And to your point, Kayla, like it takes discernment. It takes discernment to know like who needs to be in the driver's seat right now and who doesn't. And what I keep like my healing work has um helped me like really know in my heart that really no matter what happens unless it's life threatening, like I can we can go back to our secret place and I can give y'all all the care that you need. Because deep down inside I'm bigger than all of this. I am bigger than their burdens. And that's what I keep when I can come back to that. My part's like, oh yeah, true. So like, yeah, I guess well, maybe you got it. And
Yeah.
even they don't always remember that. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm. That sounds like a perfect segue into our last question. Like that landed in my, so oof, just landed in my spirit. If you could gift everyone here, if you could give one truth to every Black queer person, especially every Black queer boy, and because often Black queer boys really get the heavy end of a patriarchal system and a homophobic one, in my experience in my work. Um, but of coming of age today, what would it be? I'm gonna say it one more time, sorry. If you could give one tool or truth to every Black queer person, but especially our young Black queer boys coming of age today, what would it be?
a protective bubble, like just a bubble. So like you don't have to take anything in, just get to just be, and you get to be in your own little world, just figuring out whatever feels right for you. And you don't have to like you're impervious to all the messaging that tells you because you are this way, that means this is true about you. This is true about your sexuality. This is true about your gender expression. Um, and then it would also block out any of the messaging that tells them if that is true about you, then that's a bad thing, and that you're an abomination, and that you can't be a whole, loved, um, valuable human being. So yeah, just a bubble. Boop.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
And can we send that bubble back in time for anybody who needs that?
Yeah.
Yes.
In
Listen,
typical IFS fashion, pass back the A.
girl, you about to make
Mm-hmm.
me cry up in here.
Yeah. Pass it back.
Right.
Mm.
Whoever needed that, right?
Mm.
There's a part of me that also wants to say, and should that bubble, you know, be impacted, you have access to self that can repair.
Oh,
Not if it happens, more so when it happens. So should it be impacted? Like, parts have access to self has access to a higher power, like, I don't know, just different levels. So yeah.
It's like you get to choose what happens in your bubble. Like dream of the you that you really want to be and just do it. Like just be and know that there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm,
And it's beautiful. Like dream of the you and just embrace it.
mm. Yeah, I think that there's one gift I would give, it'd be peace without confusion. There's a lot of inner wrestling.
Oh,
Yeah, we all felt that one, huh? Yeah, there's a peace often comes with confusion. It's like a oop, that part that's like, oop, but just the peace of like knowing,
mhm.
just the knowingness.
Subgroup.
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
I said it was gonna be good, and guess what, y'all? Yeah. Ah, man, I'm walking away with so much, and that's a segue.
Yeah.
Party. Yeah, what are we taking away from this? What are we all taking away from this? Um,
Mm,
rich conversation.
I'll start. I would say I'm taking away resonance. I think one way that I heal my younger, very, very queer inner child, is through resonance. Because when you live, like think about a bubble, right? When you live in a bubble, these conversations don't happen in a way that's affirming. And so anytime I expose her to someone's voice that's not mine, that's saying these things is always this resonance. It's like, oh, it's a
Mm.
little microdose of like, you were never alone. You just weren't around your people. And so these conversations are always very healing for my inner child. So I'm taking that with me.
I'm taking away that last question because
Mhm.
hearing it out loud brought it alive for me.
mm,
And I definitely need to be speaking on what gifts can be out there. I
mm.
need to be using my imagination in ways that spread gifts. And I'm just so excited about that. Thank you.
Mhm.
One, I want to take this feeling away, like the calmness in my nervous system. Um, yeah, like it just feels good to have experienced this and for my parts to see like, okay, this did not end horribly. Uh,
Yeah.
and just I want to take away confidence in um, mm, yeah, I guess confidence, trusting. There we go. That's the word I wanted to find the right word. Trusting that I actually do have something to say. Uh,
Mm.
so many of my parts are like, child, like, are you sure you have something in there? And part of that has to do with what you shared earlier, Alicia. Like, it feels like curiosity was exiled in my system because
Mm.
I was told, you know, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter how you feel about this. And so it almost feels like my brain won't even let me imagine.
Mm. Mm.
And so it's I probably will cry about this later, but
Mm.
just once all of my parts settled down, like that wisdom started to come forward, and I felt like like grounded in my seat, speaking from a place of authority, and it feels good to see like, oh, that's in there. So
Nika, you going or yeah, I think you going. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have words, but it's a feeling of just much gratitude, being able to be in connection um, with others that Um, oof, I wasn't expecting this. So I'm like, what's this? But just hearing how vulnerable we can be and to also be held.
Mm,
Because there's this part that's like, oh, it's not safe to be vulnerable. We have to have it together. We got to mask. We got to, like, we got to have our ducks in a row. But to be able to just see how it's held so beautifully, like here, when I feel safe, my emotions come out. So I think that's what it's trying to say. Like, oh, this feels safe. And Gerard, when he was like, oh, I'm going to cry later about it, there's a part like, oh, we get to cry. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm taking away. It's just knowing that
mm,
this is what healing can be like. It's just being in connection with others and what it can
mm,
feel like. It's okay not to always be okay.
mm,
And and the gift of choice. I get to choose, if I want to expand or retreat. Not everybody's invited in my house. Some of y'all gonna have to work for this. So the gift of choice.
Period.
That's what I'm taking away from it.
You looking through the
That part.
peephole, like, huh? Who that?
And keep your shoes outside.
You're not about to keep coming in and out my house. You
Right,
stay
right.
where you
Close that
stay.
door. You smell like outside.
mhm,
What I'm taking with me is it's the bubble. I think I'm taking a bubble with me, Gerard. It's bubbles for right all our right littles that were different. And because what we've named here is like right, patriarchy impacts all of us.
mhm,
Um, and racism and patriarchy is a disgusting combination, and racism, patriarchy, and homophobia is even
mm,
the ugly thing. So yeah, taking the bubble.
mhm,
Yeah, send it. Yeah, send it energetically right to those that need it,
mm.
that their little see it. Thank you so much, Gerard, for being you and showing up and speaking for what you needed, and speaking for your parts, being a human with us.
Mm.
Such a gift.
Thank you for creating a space that was safe enough for me to trust that it was okay to do that. Yeah.
I told you, we just be IFS in it. What I say?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we have to invite you back. It just only feels right. So
Mhm.
It does.
yes. And I appreciate all of you who are watching, listening for your art, and hope that your parts were touched as ours were. And continue to take care of yourself in this wild and crazy world. Know that you are loved. Know that there's hope, and for parts that can't take that in, know that we're holding it for you until
Mm.
you can. Take care. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to the Black and Unblending podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all social media platforms. See you next time. Take care. Peace.